Well, welcome YouTube. It's been a while since you've heard from me. I don't know if you know this or if I've said in a previous video. The day after Thanksgiving 2023, I got knocked down by a miniature bull and busted my shoulder. So most of my winter was in recovery. I had to have surgery, some plates put in, and my shoulder, I was in a sling, and then once I was released from the sling, I had intensive therapy to get movement back. I am released from therapy, but I'm still working on some movement and strength back. But in the meantime, was reevaluating things, and I said I wanted to get this running. Have a gentleman that actually may want to purchase it, but I don't feel right selling it to him without it running. So we are going to install some fuel lines, because in the recovery video back in 2019, you can go all the way back. William may put a link to the playlist or the videos. I don't know that we have a playlist, but back when we recovered this and got it running with a boat tank, which I currently have on the 300. This winter of 23 and spring of 24, I wanted to get that running. Did not get anything done because of my injury. So I picked this up, brought it over here with forklift. It's nice when you have a forklift that's big enough that you can just pick it up and move it. It's always nice also working on them to put these 1020 truck tires on it. We disassembled a lot of the unit and worked on washing it. It was plumb filthy, packed with coon manure. And then it sat over there in that corner until just recently. Beginning of June of 24, I started working on it. Got it home in 2019. We got used batteries out of the New Holland 920 we had to replace. Those still have some life. I'm charging them because we're going to get ready to run the fuel line, prime it up. Should have it being able to start any time once we get the fuel lines on. So that's the mission. I'll quit yakking, and we're going to run some fuel line. The fittings that are like this, it's like hydraulic hose fittings, but it's not hydraulic hose. I don't want to use hydraulic hose. Flared fittings, I think, is what they're called. But we're going to make it work with what we have here. I would love if anybody in the comments can tell me where to buy something that crimps regular fuel line. This would have been original, as you can see the red paint. See if we can get it to focus. The red paint there. Let me know. Instead, we're going to have to use hose clamps and regular fuel line with no crimped on fittings and hope for the best. So here we go. Like I said, first thing to do is route the fuel line. Here we left an old one in that we're going to tape to pull down that compartment right there. Had to remove the fuel tank just to get back here. So that is the first thing we're going to do. That worked pretty good to have the old fuel line pull the other two back through the tunnel between the saddle tank of the hopper and the combine wall. So now we're going to leave these loose and go up and hook them onto the fuel pump and the return line. And then as we come back down, we will make sure everything has enough slack, nothing's pulled too tight, and we will zip tie and secure with the combine parts. Here's one of the things that we will secure it with right there. And then we'll have our excess. I bought two 25-foot runs. I think I could have got away with 15. We'll cut it off and measure it when we're done, and then anybody doing this will know how much they need. We'll have the excess down here where the fuel tank mounts up. We'll get everything secured, and then we'll begin to get the fuel up there and prime it and see if we can get this girl to kick off. So now we'll go up to the engine compartment and probably talk up there. Now you can see that we have our fuel line here, the one with the tape on it. I will route around between the wall in there. It actually was zip tied to the metal fuel line that comes from the pump down there. And it goes on to that short nipple about right there with just a hose clamp. We won't need to worry about air getting into it, being it's the return line. So we're going to route that one first, make sure it's not going to get caught on any pulleys. And I have kept old couch cushions for this. You can see where looks like some people have stood on the radiator tank, which is kind of annoying. But we're going to now route that and put its hose clamp on. So we'll maybe get you on some time lapse there, or we'll just do it and then talk about it. Okay, I don't know if you can see it or not. There's a line, the metal line that we're zip tied to is the primary fuel line off of the fuel pump, which is back here. That goes into the back of the fuel pump, and then there's a hand pump on the bottom for priming. Don't know if you can see that. So we used that as our route, and that goes around the motor. We zip tied to it. That was a challenge because we want to be away from that adjustment chain. We don't want anything to rub a hole in our return line and then fuel will be going everywhere. You can see we come up here and we got onto our nipple right there. It was sticking out. We have this with a hose clamp, and it goes back in there around the head of the engine, and all is secured. That was a rubber line to begin with, so we should be good. Now, while we're up here, we're going to hook up the primary fuel line and then start working our way back down and securing the fuel line and the return line down through there and over there, down the side of the combine, through the saddle tank, and meet back at the fuel tank. Okay, it was uneventful. We have the main fuel line fittings in the pump, and we have a hose clamp up there, you can't see it from here, to put on the barbed fitting. We used one of these barbed fittings into the original flared right angle brass fitting that the crimped hydraulic style hose would have went to. Now keep in mind, it is not hydraulic hose. It is this hose here. This is what was up there on that flared end, and that's just fuel line. It's not got any wire around it. So now we are going to secure the line under the platform here, where it goes in under the saddle tank, which is down in here. We now have taken and mounted the tank back on the machine, being careful to get our rubber cushions underneath the straps and where it sits, so everything lined back up perfectly there. We did take it over and steam cleaned the outside, because when we took it off, still had a bunch of bean pummy plastered on the outside. This combine was really filthy. The guy never cleaned it. I think he just used it. So that's why we took it apart so far, to clean it and get everything out of it. So now we have to work underneath, securing our lines and getting them hooked up. The one with the white on it is our return line, so we'll probably work with it first. We put the return fittings on here, and we're going to bring the hose up to here. I wanted one that had a female fitting to go over the nipple here and pick up a little height, or shorten it a little, but this is what the parts store had as of right now. Tank is nice and shiny. I don't know if you can see in there, probably not, because I don't have a light for you. So I think it's going to be good there. And now we're going to route the return line. Okay, we have the Return line tightened down. We have it zip tied over there. Might try to look for a different elbow here eventually. Maybe not. We got them routed with slack back in there. You can't really see it. We have it on the sediment fuel bulb and tightened right there. And they do provide you with some little clamps right there. And see, there we go. We cleaned the fuel bulb. It had a film in it, but that came out with choke cleaner. So the only one I don't have tight yet is up at the pump. Upon Timothy's return, we will put a towel over this and pressurize the tank, open the petcock down there, and know that we have fuel right to the pump, so the pump don't have to run dry, getting it all the way up through the combine. The lines are secured with no sharp edges back there, right in that corner, and we are connected. So now comes the time and the challenge of priming. Going to have to conclude right here. Got to go help a neighbor. The next thing will be to prime up, get fuel up to the pump that's on the engine, and I've got the batteries charging here. We like these trickle chargers. We'll just let it go this evening, and they will get these batteries up to 100%. They do really well. So we got to prime it up there. We got to prime it at the pump, crack the injectors, get her cranking, tighten up the injectors once we see some fuel. And then what we had to do, we got so frustrated when we went to rescue it. It is 90-degree days out now. It's not, I think we did that in March or February one time. We had to give it some ether to start, so we may have to do that. I don't know. Once I get it primed, and I'm going to see maybe if I have fuel filters, I might change the fuel filters. But I do know it'll run on those fuel filters, or it did in 2019. So we're going to see what we can do right there. So keep you posted, and we'll go from there.